Lesson 3, Unit Circle. When I'm talking about circumference, the formula for circumference is 2 pi times radius. Now if I'm looking at this circle here, if I increase the circle, the radius is increasing. Now if I'm looking at just the angle that's in the circle, the angle measurement does not change. As it makes it smaller or larger, the angle measurement stays the same. Now the arc length is getting larger as I increase the radius. The new unit of measure is called radians. It's a unit of measure based on arc length, and it usually has pi units in it. We have radians so that if I have a different length for the radius, that means my arc length is going to be increasing. That's why we have radian measurement. It's to measure the arc length. So if I'm moving from degrees to radians, I multiply, if I'm going to draw out one circle, one full circle is the same thing as 360 degrees. One full circle is also going to be the same thing as 2 pi. Because if the radius is 1, this length here is 1, that means the circumference of the whole circle will be 2 pi times 1, which is the same thing as 2 pi. So if I'm talking about 180 degrees, I took 360 divided by 2 to get 180. So in radian measurement, I take 2 pi divided by 2, and it will get me pi. This is when the radius is 1. So when I'm moving from degrees to radians, I multiply the degrees by pi over 180. Because this conversion right here, pi is equal to 180 when I have a radius of 1. They're the same measurement. So if I have 50 degrees, I take it 50 times 180, or pi over 180. When I multiply, I can cross out zeros. So my radian measurement here would be 5 pi over 18. And this is what I'm talking about. Usually have pi units. There's usually a pi on the top of the fraction. So if I have 210, I multiply that by pi over 180. Again, I can cross out the zeros, and both of these are divisible by 3. So my radian measurement would be negative 7 pi over 6. When I'm going from degrees to, or radians to degrees, I multiply the radian measurement by 180 over pi. Your pi units should cancel out. So if I take 3 pi over 7 times 180 over pi, you should always be able to cancel the pi on top and bottom. So if I multiply this across, 3 times 180 and then divide it by 7, I would get 77.14 degrees roughly. So again, if the angle is given with the pi units, that means it's in radians. So here I'm going to multiply 180 over pi. Your pi unit should always cancel out. And that will be the same thing as 120 degrees. The next problems, try to do them by yourself and then compare them with my answers. Negative 36, I'm going to multiply by pi over 180, and I'll get negative pi over 5 once I reduce. Negative 45, I multiply by pi over 180, I get negative pi over 4 once I reduce. And 80 degrees, I multiply by pi over 180, I get 4 pi over 9. Should always reduce when possible. Now I have my radian measurement. So I multiply by 180 over pi. And once I reduce, I have 150 degrees. Again, you multiply by 180 over pi. Your pi units should always cancel out. And I get 40 degrees. Even though this is just a number, 4 pi is the same thing as 4 pi over 1. So I still multiply by 180 over pi. My pi units cancel. And I get 720 degrees. The other way you could think of this is I have two sets of 2 pi. This would be like 2 pi plus 2 pi. And 2 pi is equal to 360 because that is one full circle. So 360 plus 360 is equal to 720. Now the unit circle. The unit circle is on the back of your notes. This is what the unit circle looks like. The unit circle, the radius is always going to be 1. For this whole circle, wherever you see the radius, it's always going to be equal to 1. So this is saying for this measurement right here, when you're writing on the unit circle, you should not use pen because you're going to have to reference the unit circle multiple times. That my degree here is 30 degrees and my pi units here is equal to pi over 6. At this point on my xy graph, I have the point x is square root 3 over 2 and y is 1/2. The reason I have that is because if I created this triangle, remember whenever you create a triangle it should always be in reference to the x-axis. My opposite here would be 1/2 and my adjacent would be square root 3 over 2. So if I were to pick another point, looking here, if I drew to 225 degrees, this whole angle is 225, or in radian measurement, it's 5 pi over 4. If I were to draw this triangle here, always to the x-axis, this is my theta. My x is equal to negative square root 2 over 2, and my y is equal to negative square root 2 over 2. Again, you should not draw on your unit circle unless it's with a pencil so it's not so dark. So you want to try to keep your unit circle nice and neat. So if I'm looking for, you should write this down also. Unit circle radius is always going to be 1 unit. If I'm looking for the cosine of 210, remember that cosine is the same thing as x over r. So I'm looking at my unit circle, I find 210. Here's 210 measurement. And here's my point xy. My r is always equal to 1. So cosine of 210 is going to be my x, which is negative square root 3 over 2, over 1. Or it's just equal to negative square root 3 over 2. So if I'm looking for tan of 5 pi over 3, I find 5 pi over 3 on my unit circle. It's right here. So if I were to draw it out here, here's my xy coordinates. Tan is always equal to y over x. So my y in this case is negative square root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. Dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. My 2's cancel out. So tangent of 5 pi over 3 is going to be equal to negative square root 3. You should try the next two on your own before you watch me do it. If I find sine of 315, find 315 on my unit circle first. Here's my xy coordinates, and sine is x. or sine is y over r. My r is 1 here. So it'd be square root 2 over 2 negative divided by 1, which is also equal to negative square root 2 over 2. So if I'm looking for cosine 4 pi over 3, find 4 pi over 3 on my unit circle. Cosine is your x over your r, and your r here is 1, so it's negative 1/2 over 1, which is the same thing as negative 1/2. So you want to keep your unit circle nice and neat because you're going to be referencing that. Your homework is on page 947, 2 through 12, 20 through 30. All of those are even.